All right, it's Mike Messier. Great Balls of Fire 2017. I guess this is going to be an annual pay-per-view title, which I'm not terribly opposed to. I thought it was, I can't remember the prior July pay-per-view names, so I guess they were kind of not really clicking for people. SummerSlam, of course, is the usual highlight of the summer, but this was different. This was in July. And I'll say this, I think they did pretty well for themselves. One thing about July is that major sports such as the NBA and the NHL and the NFL, obviously, are not in competition. They do have drafts and trades and all that stuff, free agency. So wrestling and, baseball, which is probably not a conflict for most fans. There's probably baseball fans who are wrestling fans also, like I am, and vice versa. But I don't think a wrestling fan is going to stop watching a wrestling pay-per-view in the summer to watch a regular season baseball game. So henceforth, it does make sense that pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, WWE in this case, can take advantage. So therefore, Great Balls of Fire, I did think it was a good pay-per-view. I do think it, I was personally tired from a long day in the sun and kind of conked out a bit during this historic tag team match, which actually they said that this was the first tag team Iron Man match, which is not exactly true. In fact, if you look up Iron Man match or Marathon match, is what it was actually called, with the Rougeaus and the Rockers going back to 1990 at house shows. So for the WWF to try and, market, or Booker T, I think, was the one that said that, and this was the first fucking Iron Man match of tag teams, is inaccurate. But as usual, WWF gets a lot of things inaccurate about their own product. They like to call it a product, and they get a lot of their facts wrong, either deliberately trying to make things better than they are, or just by mistakes, which is human error. One little stat and fact is, if you look up Super Brawl 2, Lex Luger vs. Sting, February 28th, 1992, it's listed on the network, but it was actually on February 29th, which is a leap day of that year, 1992. If you look that up, you can find that WWE has a major mistake right there on their own damn network. Now let's go to the pay-per-view analysis. I thought it was a good pay-per-view. I thought, like I said, I admitted that I was sleepy and I was tired during the tag team match, which everybody was saying how great it was, and I was just tired, so I can't claim. But I did see most pins in that. I was just kind of dozing off. But I used that as my own little hot dog match to get a nap in for the big boy matches. And, what I found troubling is, I think me and my buddy were kind of watching it, but we were slow on something happened, it got paused a few times or something. I thought that the pay-per-view ran overtime, but maybe it didn't. Maybe just my, phone said 11:07 for the end time, but I think that was just because we had gotten a delayed tape, playing through the network somehow. It was slow or whatever the fuck. But I did enjoy the pay-per-view. It did seem like you went from a very violent situation with Braun Strowman and Roman. It's an interesting thing, like, if Roman's going to kill people with automobiles now, that's not exactly a top vanilla baby face. So, but it doesn't seem like the crowd's going to like him no matter what you do. So if you have him be a homicidal maniac who kills people with ambulance accidents, then maybe that'll work to get him over as a heel. So I thought that was okay. I actually thought it was pretty good, a good match. The women match I thought was actually quite good. I do think a count-out loss was interesting, that, Alexandra, or Alex Bliss, her gimmick is, you can beat me, but if I'm not going to lose a championship, then I don't care. So beat me by count out, beat me in a tag team match by submission. And it's kind of a good old classic chicken shit heel thing. I think what happens sometimes in my history as a wrestling fan, if you go back to the Natural Disasters, or even Money Inc. is actually what I was thinking of. Money Inc. 1993 lost a lot of matches by count out and getting disqualified. And I think when they did that, they lower their own stock. They don't necessarily lower the value of the belts in any damaging way. There's other ways you can do that, unfortunately. But I think what they do is nobody really talks about Money Inc. being a great team because they were always getting counted out by Purpose. And I think just last month, if I'm not mistaken, over on a SmackDown pay-per-view, the Uso brothers got themselves either counted out or disqualified against the New Day. I believe it was a count out. So now you have a similar or exact same thing where Alex is trying to get back in the ring, and then at some point around the 7 or 8 mark, she says, oh, to hell with it, I'll just stay out here and get counted out. So now what are you going to do? A Hell in a Cell, these two ladies, women, Lumberjill match, which is a god-awful match. What are you going to do? So I don't know the answer. I know what I would do. I like Alex Bliss, so I think if they keep the belt on her, as much as possible, it's probably for the best because she's really attractive and she's a very good talker, and she gets great heat and she has a little pouty look to her. So I think I would probably keep the belt on her as well. But if you've got to satisfy the fans of Sasha or Bayley or Mickie James or whoever, then yeah, just do what you're doing. So I wasn't terribly offended. I would say, what else happened on this pay-per-view? Oh, an interesting sad fact, which I don't know if anyone else noticed. All 3 members of The Shield appeared on this pay-per-view in singles matches, and all 3 members of the original Shield, which they all lost. So you had Seth Rollins losing a match. You had, by pin, really, I believe, the opener on the pay-per-view, losing to Bray Wyatt via more or less clean. And Dean Ambrose losing from interference from, ironically, Bray Wyatt's younger brother in real life. We all know that. But we all know that, Bo Dallas. And then finally, the third one, Roman losing the ambulance match. So losing the ambulance match, but then just jumping out right in front. It's one of those deals where, okay, so Roman lost. You had the bad guy win the match, which is fine. But he fucking won the match, but he didn't really win the war type of deal. It's kind of a shallow victory, so forth. Main event, probably the biggest point of discussion. I was actually pulling for Samoa Joe to win the title and for Paul Heyman to turn on Brock Lesnar. I thought putting Heyman is really, in my mind, such a good talker, and Samoa Joe's a pretty good talker too. But if you put those two together, Heyman as the advocate for Samoa Joe, which Samoa Joe said he wanted, when this whole thing started, he wanted fucking Brock Lesnar's life. I think that would have been better than this kind of match. I thought it felt, I wouldn't say rushed, but initially they had to get over the fact that you just had this violent ambulance thing happen. So now you had to be even tougher and stiffer. And I thought they did pretty good about their own match having their own identity. They did go to the floor a little bit, but they really kept it. Oh, by the way, nice move by Sasha Banks with the double knee driver. I don't want to overlook that, but great move by Sasha Banks, to her credit. But going back to Brock and Joe, I just thought it was a deal where I would have liked to see Joe win the belt, and he didn't win the belt. But beyond that, I don't think the match was bad. I thought it was good, actually. A 3 or 4 star match, the Meltzer Raider or whatever the fuck. I thought it was a good show altogether. From the top of my tippy-toppy head, I don't think there was any title changes. I believe all the champions retained their belts, unless I'm totally blanking or forgetting something. Cruiserweight thing was on the pre-show, or was that the second or third match of the regular show? Neville, I guess Austin Aries has left, or has been asked to leave or released from the WWE. So he's out of the picture, which seems like that was unfulfilled. They really could have done something with him and blah, 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 fuck. But overall, I would say that this was a good pay-per-view. I think it was solid. I think it was good, actually, above average. Maybe the best pay-per-view since WrestleMania, most likely. And it was nice to see Brock back in there. I don't think you needed to have him win. He doesn't really like wrestling. Apparently, from what I can tell, he just likes being on the farm with Sable or whatnot. And I'd rather see them promote wrestlers who actually enjoy their work. No offense to Brock, I just don't think he's into wrestling, and I'd rather see a guy like Samoa Joe who actually enjoys wrestling be the champion. Universal champion or any type of champion. So that's MikeMessier.com for all your Mike Messier needs, wants, and desires. Mike the Wrestling Demigod signing out. Bye.